Alright, so if you don't know, Big Brother is a reality TV show. So pretty much what happens is they take like 16 normal people, although they're usually a little bit crazy, a little bit cray-cray, you know what I'm saying? But somewhat normal, you know what I'm saying? Somewhat normal people, and they put them in this house together for like 3 months. And then what happens is they play all these different games and all this stuff, and then eventually have these votes to see who gets kicked and who stays. And then at the end, they have a chance to win like a $500,000 prize. Although, there is this part of Big Brother where it's actually called like the have-nots. And what that means is there's these people in the house who have stuff and they're taken care of, like they have comfy beds, they have nice food, they have warm showers, all things that are like awesome that we take for granted. But then if you lose certain challenges, you become a have-not, which means you have to take cold showers. On top of that too, you have to sleep on like this bed that's like real hard in this room that's like real ugly when everyone else has got the fancy stuff. And then on top of that, all you can eat for a whole week is this stuff called Big Brother slop, alright? Which is kind of like really gross oatmeal. So, here's the deal. Who wants to try some Big Brother slop? You want to come on up here? Who else wants to try? Yeah, come on up. You want to try it too? Alright, come here. Come here. Do you have any like weird food allergies? Oh, there you go. Do you? No? Okay. So go ahead and take you a nice big bite. Now, I made you breakfast today. I just want the record. Go ahead and get some of that. There you go. You signed up. You got it? It's like so hard. Go ahead, take you a bite. I just gonna sit there for a little bit. It's only like 30 minutes. How is it? Howard? How's yours? Alright, so now here's the deal. Would you rather have like a steak? Like I'm talking like last night I had like a 14-ounce ribeye from like a fancy, like it was pretty good, it hit pretty good. Would you rather have like a steak or that? No? What do you like? You would. So pretty much anything, yeah? What about you? Scale of 1 to 10, what do you give it? 2. 2? What do you give it? Alright, well you guys can throw it away if you want. Or you can keep snacking. No, we're not going to share though because there's like a pandemic going on. So we're not going to do that. Alright, hey, so here's the deal. So in Big Brother, she's like, I'm still hungry, so I'm abashed. In Big Brother, there's this idea. And then when everybody gets like a have-not challenge and they're on Big Brother slop like that, they're kind of like, I have to eat this gross oatmeal stuff for the whole week? Like, that's lame. And then all of a sudden they start to fall into this bit of a comparison trap where they see what everybody else has. They see that everyone else has warm showers instead of cold, and they have good food like steak and awesome vegetables and fruit and all that compared to Big Brother slop, and all of a sudden they start to fall in a trap where their mind gets to working and they're like, dude, I wish I had that. I wish I had more than I had. I wish I was better. I wish I looked better. You know what I'm saying? Over and over and over again. And the truth is, this is kind of like a psychological or mental trap that we can find ourselves in from time to time. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who struggled with this, right? Like, maybe for you guys, it's like, dude, I wish I had a bigger house like my friend down the street. I wish I looked like that on Instagram. I wish I had more money like maybe that other person, or I wish I looked a certain way or was smarter like this other person. And it's easy to almost find our identity in comparing ourselves to others. You see, the thing is, the truth is, God made us all different. And God made us all special. And even on top of that too, we all have a past. We all have different things that line us up to where we are in life right now. But the cool thing about God is, even though our past has value, even though our past matters, it still doesn't define us. It doesn't define who we are. And we're going to talk a little bit about this throughout the series. So as I said, we're in this series where we're talking about identity. And kind of one of the big points we got is this. And it's that we want you guys to focus less on what you think that you don't have so that you can better see what you already have. Because God's already blessed us in so many different ways, so it's so important for us to not just focus about the things in life that we lack, instead to view us for how awesome we are and look at the things in life that we're awesome at. That's just such an important thing. But that doesn't make it easy, right? It's not always easy to be like, dude, how come that person's so awesome and I don't feel that? It's not always easy to go through that trap, but that's why it's important for us to talk about the areas where we feel a little insecure with this. And the cool thing is this. Regardless of who you are, regardless of what talents you have, regardless of how you were raised or whatever's happened in your past that's maybe awesome or not so awesome, God can still use you, and God can still use your story. You just have to be willing to let it. And so, throughout the course of this series, too, we're going to look at some people in the Bible who God used, even though they had some jacked up stories. Even though they came from a past that wasn't awesome. So today, we are talking about a boy named, well, not a boy, he's a man, because he's got a beard. Kind of like Ryan's got a beard, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you see a big beard like that, you're like, that's a manly guy. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Look at Josh's beard. Can we just celebrate those beards? Those are manly. So we're going to look at a man who probably had like the Ryan and Josh beard going on, Moses. Alright? Now here's the deal. We got to talk a little about Moses. Who knows something about Moses that they want to share with the group? What do you know about Moses?
He was the Egyptian prince.
Okay, yeah. Alright. Other things, yes. He gave us the Ten Commandments. Yeah, he got those from God, yes. God's people, yeah. Out of Egypt, yeah. For sure, yes.
He was a murderer.
Yes, he was. Ooh. But not like this game, like legit. You know what I'm saying? Not like, yeah. Anybody else? Anybody else? Moses?
He did all the
Yeah, for sure. So there were all these miracles that God said he was going to perform, and he used Moses to actually carry those out. Someone else raise their hand back here. Yeah.
He talked to God in the burning bush.
Yes. Yes.
He led over 1 million people out of slavery.
For sure, yeah. All of God's chosen people, that sort of idea. Last one. Part of the Red Sea, very good. Yeah, so we talked about this guy, Moses. Now, here's some things you might have not known about Moses. Moses was actually a guy who was raised very poor, and then his mom actually kind of gave him up. She kind of gave him away. So she actually threw him in this river to kind of hide him, and then all of a sudden this dude who came from very, very humble beginnings as a baby actually got adopted by this princess who was actually very high up in Egypt, okay? So all of a sudden this dude went from poor social status as a baby to being raised as a very wealthy person with high prestige. Although on top of that too, he had some real identity issues with this because the people he was hanging with weren't really him, right? He himself was actually an Israelite. Those were his people. And actually, Egypt was very rough on the Israelites. So much that they actually, the pyramids itself, that was God's people, the Israelites, who actually built those. But they were really slaves to the Egyptians and were highly mistreated. So all of a sudden, Moses, his whole life growing up, he's like, how come I was the guy who, when my people were suffering, I've been eating steak for dinner every night? You know? How come I was the guy who was loaded when my family and friends who I care about and love are over there being beaten and mistreated and not really fed very well? That sort of idea. And then on top of that too, so he was adopted, he struggled with that. He actually worked his way up a little bit in that regard. And then he saw one of his fellow Israelites getting mistreated by an Egyptian worker, an Egyptian soldier. And he actually saw him getting beaten, and Moses had kind of just a stretch of political unrest there, in a place where he's that is not right. And so he went up and actually killed this Egyptian guard. So all of a sudden, Moses, this dude who had a story, was now a murderer. Now, it wasn't straight cold blood. He was trying to defend someone, but still, talk about a past, right? And then on top of that, Moses, because he didn't want to get in trouble, ended up running away and kind of just isolating by himself. So he was at this place where he was a broken guy. He was down. He's like, God, man, I've killed people. I've been blessed even when I shouldn't have. I was raised rich when all the people I care about and love were raised poor. And Moses was kind of just a broken guy. He saw himself as his past instead of seeing himself the way that God sees him. So that's what's so ironic here. And then we get into the story of the burning bush, which is this story where God actually talks to Moses through this miracle form. There's this bush on fire, and he starts having this conversation with Moses. And he essentially tells Moses that he's going to use him. And then so you gotta think here through Moses' lens. If God's talking to him and he's like, look, Moses, I'm actually going to use you to bring millions of Israelites, my people, your people, Moses, your family, your friends, those people, out of Egypt, out of slavery. And Moses was like, what? Right? Me? God, I'm out there wanting And then so even talking to God about this, because honestly, a lot of times, the way that God works, it doesn't really make sense, which is why it's important to know that there is a God and we're not him, right? So here's what this says in Exodus 3:11. It says, when God told him this, when God told him all he was going to do, Moses said to God, "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt?" And then it even says that God says, "I will be with you, and this will be a sign to you that I have sent you." See, so Moses asks this idea, who am I? And maybe even in a place too where you kind of ask that same thing, right? Like maybe you got a youth leader or even me or another pastor or someone, and they're like, "Hey, you're going to be able to do awesome things for Jesus. Hey, God's going to use you in awesome ways. You have an awesome story and God can use you." Maybe you've heard that before. But then you think, I don't really believe that. Like, who am I? And I think we've all been there before. I've been there throughout my life, right? Like, who am I that I get to serve with you guys? Who am I that I get to lead in that capacity? But the important thing to know there is, while we're asking, who am I? God's just saying, I'll be with you. Over and over and over again. So, what can a broken person do when they tap into the power of God? They can do stuff like lead over 1 million Egyptians out of slavery. That's sort of, or 1 million Israelites out of slavery. That sort of God is the God that we serve, right? That idea there. So I just want you to think, man, what is something that's near and dear to your heart right now that you want to do for God? And I want you to know, if you're wanting to tap into the power of God, we serve a God big enough to help you do those things. But this idea of not seeing us as our past, it can be tough. So here's actually what we're going to do today. We're going to talk a little bit about our story. And kind of the last big point we're hitting on here is your story matters to God. We all have a past. We all have things that we struggle with, things that we're insecure about. And that's okay. And the truth is, our past, whether good or bad, plays a role in the type of person we become. Although it doesn't define us. We're not just our past. It's what God says about us. So here's what I want you to do. Reach under your chair there and grab this paper handout, all right? We got that? Yeah? So you guys should all have a piece of paper and a pen there. Thank you, Josh. All right. Now, in just a moment, you guys are going to have a little bit of time to fill this out, okay? And so, here's what this is. The first one here is my history. So go ahead and throw that up there, Brendan. This is just kind of like a brief synopsis of where we're at in life, kind of things we've done. So, the first one here in just a moment, don't write yet, just stay with me for a second. We're going to write about our history. So, where were you born at? Where did you grow up at? And what was your childhood like? That's kind of your history. Were you born locally? Were you born away? What did it look like when you were young? How were you raised? That sort of idea. What's kind of the history of your life? The next one, kind of we're going to write down is heroes. Who are some of the people that have affected you positively in life? Who are some of the people, maybe like a parent, a youth leader, a mentor, or a bigger older sibling, whatever, who played a big role in your life? Or maybe too, it's someone far away. Maybe it's a distant pastor. Maybe it's someone who you've always just respected. Who was a hero in your life? And then my hurts. What are some challenging events that have shaped you in life? What are some things that you went through that were tough, but because of that, you're able to be who you are today? And the last one, hopes. What is it that you hope for? What kind of person do you want to become? Like, what do you want to have said about you kind of at the end of your life? That sort of idea. Or even too, when you were little, what was a dream that you had? That sort of idea. So, here's what's going to happen. We're going to play some music, and I want you to spend a couple minutes writing this down, and we're going to talk about this in our small group.